Now, I know to most of my hunter mains, this is something well known. I am not a hunter main, but I definitely saw this artifact mod as being potentially disgusting before the season even launched when paired with something like Wormhusk and the hunter class ability. Essentially today, guys, we're going to be taking Wormhusk, combining it with the artifact mod Arc Battery, and merging it with Bottom Tree Arc Strider. That seems to have like the best neutral game for what we're trying to do here. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Burning Battery. Huh? Man, no lie, that is a terrible name, and I did it purposely. Because let me be frank with you, hunters. I don't like your builds. I like using your builds, but I don't like going up against your builds. And this is one of those builds that I cannot stand because I am seeing more and more of it inside of comp. So first up, let's just get into what's happening here. Wormhusk grants us the ability Burning Souls. Dodging gives a small health bump and shield bump. Now previously, like way back when, in Season 3, like back when we didn't even have radar in competitive, Wormhusk was like the most annoying exotic to go against because obviously, at least on console, when a hunter dodges, they might as well just jump off your screen. I mean, you got a 70-something field of view, a hunter dodges on that field of view, he's gone. Combine that with no radar and combine that with what Wormhusk used to do, which is give you full health, or at least start regeneration to give you full health, you could just say goodbye to your 1v1, which essentially is what happened. Like hunter usage went up to like 77%, if I remember correctly. He was dumb. Now in this sandbox, and since then, Wormhusk just gives you a bump there in both health and in shield. Many hunters jumped up and said, oh my god, this exotic is ruined. And I would say it wasn't as good as it was, but it's still pretty good. It still got you out of a pinch, especially when you combine it with certain subclasses. Things like lightning reflexes on Arc Strider, which actually make you harder to kill while you are dodging, really comes in clutch. But just to top it off, we're combining it with the artifact mod here in Season 8, Arc Battery. Grants overshield and reduced cooldown during activation for all Arc class abilities. This is big, boys. Now we actually tested Arc Battery the other day. How strong is Arc Battery? If you can time it correctly, very strong. You can actually survive a super blast from Nova Warp with the overshield from Arc Battery. Now granted, it only lasts for like a second or so, but that 1 second, if timed correctly, you could tank a hell of a lot of damage, which actually made me wonder, could you tank something like a shoulder charge? For the purposes of what I was using it for, I was tanking a lot of things. I was taking mountaintops to the face or to the butt. I don't know. I'm rolling on the ground. I don't know which way I'm looking, but I'm taking a lot of things here that normally would kill a Guardian. But when combined with something like Arc Battery and the dodge ability on Hunter to close the gap even more, or to just dodge out of a situation, and Wormhusk for that health bump, all in all, guys, this makes any weapon choice that you want to use deadly. And again, the other side benefit to all of this is the reduction in your Arc class abilities upon activation. So instead of me rocking something like Perpetuation, which gives me a reduction there in my class ability cooldown when using my class ability, as essentially like the same thing. I would argue and say Arc Battery is probably even better. I haven't actually done a side-by-side comparison, but instead of me doing that, I just rock Dynamo for my reduction there in super cooldown when using my class ability. And considering I'm going to be using this Arc Battery mod a bunch here to close the gap and dodge and stay alive, Dynamo here is a no-brainer. Now, we've gone over a lot of different builds. We went over the one-hit sticky grenade build for Titans. We went over Thunder Coil and the one-hit melee kills for Titans. Is this on the same level of lethality? Here's where this build differs from those builds. I love those builds, like Thunder Coil with Striker Titans. Is it disgusting? Yes, but let's be real, guys. It's only going to be here for a season. So if you're having me running around rocking something like Syndoceps with Thunder Coil, I'm not necessarily going to jump up and condemn you. Now, if you're running around with Mountaintop and Recluse, One-Eye Mask, and Thunder Coil, there's a special place for people like you, all right? If we're going to rock nasty builds, we got to have somewhat of a moral code here, okay? We can't just throw it all out. But considering those builds, is Burning Battery the build? At least for my hunters here inside of PvP. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. And again, guys, I play Hunter, but I only play them for these builds right here. I only get on them to try out builds. And normally, if I get on and I try out a build, within 2 or 3 games, I know immediately whether or not this build is a good one or not. Because if it can work for me, really, a non-hunter main, by God, I can only wonder what it can do for actual hunter mains. My experience with this was I felt almost invincible, considering with all of these things I had a dodge on hand at all times. I mean, we're not taking into account the other subclass abilities on Bottom Tree Arc Strider. I mean, it's one of the best. You've got Focused Breathing, which recharges your dodge drastically by just simply sprinting, and you gain gain increased maximum sprint speed. You got disorienting blow. So for those times that I did find myself in like a 1v1 melee situation with an opponent, I don't know, I just hit them and they just went limp. It's a very disgusting melee ability. And if you're rocking Gambler's Dodge, which is what I would suggest if you're going to be playing a little more aggressively, then you'll always have a melee ability on hand. The main thing is this is not just a fun build or a good build in 6v6, even though that's primarily where I'm using it in today's gameplay. I've got friends, I know Jay specifically, who uses this all the time now in competitive. In just about every 1v1 situation, he's able to come out on top. And see, it's different than how Wormhusk was back in Season 3. Like Wormhusk back in Season 3, with no radar, was like you use Wormhusk to dodge out of a bad situation, played more passively, and then snuck back on top of your opponent. This is like, no, your opponent sees you, whether you're wielding a shotgun or a fusion or an SMG or something. They see you. They start shooting you. You roll on the ground a couple of times, though, after being shot in the face, and then you still proceed to kill the man. And as infuriating as that may be, I gotta say I like this version more than the Wormhusk that we saw back in Season 3, as this entire thing seems to reward more aggressive players. Granted, I did use it to get out of sticky situations, but again, that overshield that you get is only for a brief moment upon activating your class ability. It's not like it stays. Now, something I've often wondered in regards to our artifact mods is if this was like Bungie's way of testing things they could potentially add to our subclasses permanently, or add to certain exotics permanently. This Wormhusk, yes, it got dialed back immensely in comparison to what it was back in Season 3, but I am wondering, since playing with this build, if this overshield from Arc Battery is something that Bungie is considering adding on top of something like Wormhusk in terms of its default exotic intrinsic perk. Now, honestly, I would have believed it if we had posed this question last week, but now that we found out that One-Eye Mask is being nerfed, and I already got a pretty good idea of how it's going to be nerfed, it's a good chance that this artifact mod and what it presents in terms of this overshield, it's not something that they're going to be adding onto Wormhusk in the future. Although that sounds very nasty, Wormhusk intrinsically still giving you that small health bump and that small shield bump, but also giving you just a small window of like half a second where you get an overshield. Might be too disgusting, right? Probably, okay? Again, I like to go more in the other way on the spectrum, where things get a little more chaotic, but we do have to question these artifact mods, and even though they are dope, I enjoy them from season to season. I'm telling you, Bungie will most likely pull statistics on what was like the most used artifact mods per season. And if we don't see those artifact mods and their abilities added to an existing subclass, or maybe a new subclass, or an existing exotic, you could bet your booty it's going to be added to a new exotic at some point. It's like Bungie's way of like playtesting things without having to permanently release them into the wild, right? If something comes out too broken, they're just like, hey, oh, it's too broken. Arc Battery and Wormhusk, obviously too broken. Or they could be like, hey, you know what? We gave an entire overshield whenever he dodged. Why not just let Wormhusk give half an overshield intrinsically? Just a thought, guys. No, we got way off on subject here. Either way it goes, this build was very satisfying to use. It gave me kills that I shouldn't have gotten. It allowed me to live through situations that I shouldn't have lived through. Now, what's the most dangerous thing about this build in terms of what weapons synergize the best here? Turns out it was a fusion rifle. Like, I thought it'd be a shotgun. No. You think fusion rifles, Aaron Till, Wiz and Rebuke are already nasty? Pair this build with those fusion rifles. You'll have some poor bastard just trying to kill you before you charge up. You dodge. You got an OV. And you got a health bump and shield bump. You proceed to recharge your fusion and annihilate this fool. It's actually pretty demoralizing, at least on the receiving end of this. Kind of fun on the other end, though. You know what I mean? So try out Burning Battery whenever you can. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.